Close the door. Welcome to today's lecture on the latest advancement in Voodoo Machine engineering. Today we will examine the smallest Voodoo Machine ever released. A Voodoo Machine is a machine used to remotely damage other players. For simplicity, we will only count machines that are close to infinitely sustainable. All Voodoo Machines function on the same mechanic. You trick the game into thinking your target hit a zombie wearing Thorn's armor. The game needs to think the targeted player damaged the zombie, so that Thorn's damage gets applied back to them. As I said, today we'll look at the new Voodoo Machine I've made. Despite its minimal footprint, it operates 3 times faster than the current fastest Voodoo Machine when using a single zombie, and up to 6 times faster when using multiple zombies. By the end of this lecture, you'll understand the underlying mechanics in full, and, assuming you've been taking notes, you may even be equipped to build one yourselves. As we discussed, last week saw a significant contribution to the field, Bo Assassin's Voodoo Machine design. In the spirit of academic discourse, I think it's about time I present my own contribution. Let's begin. I call it Satzer's Voodoo Machine, following the naming convention Bo gave us. The idea came from watching a video by Dashpump4. He discovered that if a piercing arrow goes through a portal, it forgets which entities it's already hit. That means the arrow can be reused infinitely. Its only weakness is touching the ground, since that's what breaks the enchantment's effect. If the arrow touches the ground, the piercing effect is lost, so we need to keep it in the air to reuse it over and over. Dashpump used this same mechanic to build an automated villager farm, but I saw a few ways to improve on it. A bit later, I realized this is the perfect basis for a Voodoo Machine. The first big breakthrough is that the arrow doesn't actually need to be pushed through the portal. In old designs, this was a problem because the catching mechanism was really complicated. Here's why: arrows don't collide with blocks the way you'd expect. Instead of checking their full hitbox, the game only checks whether the bottom center point of the arrow touches a block. If it doesn't, the arrow can pass through almost anything. This mechanic shows up everywhere if you work with projectiles. A nether portal block, however, does check the full hitbox. So if you align the arrow so its center misses the obsidian but the hitbox still clips into it, the arrow falls through and passes into the portal. And because the block position where you enter the portal matters, it also clips through the obsidian at the bottom on the other side. Below that obsidian sits a slime block which gets pushed by a piston when a tripwire is triggered. This shoves the arrow straight back into the portal. Since the arrow has no portal cooldown once it re-enters the overworld, it flies up and then falls back down into the portal. In the nether, the piston activates again on the other side, completing an infinite cycle. The catch, an arrow shot from a crossbow with piercing, has a fixed speed, and it's too fast for this catching mechanism to work reliably. The fix is simple: shoot the crossbow from the nether side, and on the side the arrow exits, build a bubble column that catches the arrow and pushes it into the portal. That slows the arrow down enough for the slime block pushed by the piston to catch it. From there you have 2 paths. You can build an automated farm for creakings, wither skeletons, or anything else that requires a player to land the kill. Even an XP farm works this way. My favorite use case is a beacon alternative for a raid farm. By killing drowned in front of axolotls, you get an infinite source of regeneration, thanks to a little-known mechanic where axolotls grant you regeneration when you help them win a fight. Unfortunately, this only works while you're standing next to the axolotl. Currently, the machine is just an arrow flying up and down. So how does this thing actually become a Voodoo Machine? You could just stand on top of it in Thorn's armor, but that's lame. You could also put a zombie in your place, but its armor breaks, and before that happens, it dies from the arrow hitting it over and over. That can be solved by having a witch throw instant damage potions at a snow golem but miss, so it hits the zombie instead. The instant damage potions actually heal zombies instead of hurting them. I released a video showcasing a so-called damage fountain using the same mechanic I also used for the infinite breeze charge generator design. But since the zombie's armor is breaking anyway, you'll need an armor equipper for it. I'd recommend the one from 2 No 2 name. But no one's dumb enough to shoot it in there. That is the downside of the machine. You actively need to trick your target. I would recommend building one of the farms mentioned before, and then swapping it out for the zombie. I wouldn't say my design is better than the others, but it's certainly faster to build and much less of a resource drain. In other words, it's designed for the early game when you don't have access to all the resources yet. The main downside to my machine is that you can't really hide it, because your target needs to be the one shooting arrows into the machine. You just have to hope it kills your target fast enough that they can't come back. So if you build a fake farm to lure them in, I'd recommend placing it far away from spawn. Earlier I said the machine would be faster than bows, but that's only true if you get your target to shoot multiple arrows into the machine, so the zombie gets hit more often. And if you use 4 zombies in the machine, since Thorns deals a random amount of 1 to 5 points of damage, you're much more likely to do more damage when you try 5 times. Bow's machine, or even Dockham 17, is more stable over call. Once you have a single loaded arrow, you can do pretty much anything with it. But as I said, gathering all the resources for that is difficult. I'm considering building a cheaper version of those, maybe even with my own generator to bring the cost down. I also have a big video in the works about a true/TP machine, so subscribe to help out this channel and motivate me. I have 6 weeks of holidays ahead, so you'll be seeing more from me.